All right, welcome back to part 47. Let's continue building search in the Rick and Morty app series. Before diving in, say hello in the comments with the YouTube algorithm, hit that like button, let's continue. So I literally just left that project open when I did the other video, so we'll exactly pick up where we left off. We particularly got the text out of the search field, and we were just verifying that we were reading it in properly. And we are also getting results. What's left to do in terms of search, there's essentially two things. One is render the results, and the second thing is handle pagination of the results, right? So if we get batches of 20, let's say we actually had 40 results, I'm speculating that the response also will have a next URL similar to how we paginate on these core controllers on our tabs. So let's take a look at our code. We've got this function here to execute search. We come down here, we're printing out the URL, which I don't really know if we need this anymore. And then in the success case, we're just printing out the number of models that we get back. So one interesting challenge that we have to solve here is the results are going to be differing in the view that's kind of going to be presented, right? So in other words, the characters will have these types of cells. Here we're going to have locations. I think this is a table view, if memory serves. This also looks like a table view. So let's go back to those controllers and let's think a little bit about the best way to structure all of this such that we can dynamically show the UI that we need. So I think in our view folder here, we have search, but let's go into location and our RM location view. And it looks like we use a table view for locations. So that's how we're going to show those results. And let's go into episodes. Episodes, I want to bet we also use a table view because it's easier. Oh, we use a collection view in here. Okay. I stand corrected, or I sit corrected, I should say. And characters is definitely a collection view. So cool. So we've got two collection views and a table view. Let's jump back to our search view model, and I'm just going to jot that down so I don't forget. So here, let's actually just say that for episodes and characters, it's a collection view, and then location, let's spell that correctly, is a table view. Let me just make sure I didn't mix those up. So location should be, in fact, a table view. Cool. So irrespective of the type of view that we want to show in our RM search view, we want to have a way to model the search results. At the moment, we just print it out. We do have this search result handler, which I don't exactly know what I'm doing with this. So we're going to take it and Command-Shift-F to see what the heck we did with this thing. So it looks like we registered here our search handler, and we did it with this register function. Let me see if this is called anywhere, and it looks like it's not called anywhere. So what we probably want to do, and when I probably designed this, what I was thinking is, in our view that's going to house our search results, so we have this RM search view. We also have this no search results view. We'll see in a moment if we're using that. We'll probably want to register for results in here. So let's see, we have our results, we have our view model, we have a no results view, and then we have our search input view. So let's set up our results. So here we're registering for option changes. We're also going to now say register, and we want to register search result handler. And in theory, we should get results in here. And what are those results going to be? So we can provide the actual models directly back in that block, but I think what would be a little more intelligent and helpful would be if we had a view model to represent it. So let's figure out how on earth we're going to do that. So within search, let's see, we have a no search results, a search input view model. Let's create a new Swift file. And we're going to call this RM search results view model. Cool, okay. And this is going to be a struct of RM search result view model. And this view model should essentially hold our results in a generic way such that we can create it with whatever we get back in our API call here. So this model that we get, if you take a look at the autocomplete, it's a RM get all characters response. And it looks like we've actually hard-coded that here for characters, but we don't necessarily want to do that. Let's take a look at if this works in the case of episodes and locations, because the way that it's set up currently, it really shouldn't. So let's give this a build and run. And we know characters is going to work. Let's go into locations and let's type in like Earth. And let's spell that correctly, Earth. And we'll hit the search button. And it looks like down here, we don't actually get any prints, which leads me to believe we're going into the error. So here we're going to say, let's print out failed to get results. And in this case, we actually should handle it properly and we should show something on the UI that's not just sitting there. So let's do Earth, let's hit enter, and we actually failed to get results. So it's not that we got 0 results, but the actual API call here failed. And my guess is it's because we're using the wrong thing to decode. And let's actually change it to verify this. So here we're gonna have rm get location or something like that. What did I call it? Rm get all character response. Let's call this rm location response. So there's get all location response. So that is what I'm gonna try here. And I'm just hard coding it to verify that is the problem before we make that type dynamic. So here we'll do Earth again, we'll hit search, and in this case, we actually do get results. Okay, so cool, this thing needs to be generic. So let's figure out how we will do that. So we know what we're trying to hit. We're hitting the endpoint, which is off of our config.type.endpoint. What I can do is I can create a new computed property in here. So I command clicked into there, and I can specify what the type is that we should get back that we want to decode to. So let's see. We're going to call this search result response type. I'm going to make it T, which should be generic. And we're going to switch on this. So we're going to return the appropriate thing. So here we're going to say rm get all characters response.self. Let's just copy and paste this and make sure this actually does compile. All right, it looks like it's yelling at me because it says cannot find T in scope, which makes sense. All right, we still can't do that. So let's call this any.type. And we should be able to do that because T is not contextually found. So in this case, let's see if we're actually able to call this or if we need to do this in a better way. I'm trying to avoid putting a switch here since it does get a little kind of just unnecessarily verbose. So here we are going to say what we want is our search result response type. All right, this is going to yell at me because this is going to say insert as t.type. Ooh, that's going to be kind of annoying to do. So let's see how we can actually do this. So, all right, we're going to debug this live and in action together. So let's take a look at how this function looks. So this function takes in a generic, and this generic is going to be t.type where t is codable. Okay, that makes sense. So let's say that this here is going to be codable.type. Can I do that? We'll find out in a moment. Codable.type. Okay, so this is allowed, something that is codable, returned that type. But what it is complaining about over here is that it can't infer the contextual type of this. And that makes sense because it wants it to be T. And we don't want it to just be, so it can't infer T, which makes sense. Expected type of T.type. So let's figure out the best way to do this. I'm totally gonna have to cut this video because I'm fumbling here, but that's okay. This is how we learn together. So what we could do is we can abstract this to another function, but that just kind of kicks our problem down the road. So instead of wasting time, let's just get this working and then we'll abstract it later on. So let me take this whole thing and let's come back here. And in this case, what I'll do is we are going to switch on the endpoint. And let's see, if we switch on this endpoint, we should be able to figure out what we want here. And this type is what we want to provide into our actual function there. So let's see what the best way to do this is. We're going to do this, we'll do this, and we'll do this. And let me just copy and paste this. And I do realize that this is insanely verbose, but we're going to clean it up after it actually works. That's generally how I like approaching these things, like get it working and then we can figure out what on earth we want to do. So in the case of characters, this is going to be get all characters response.self. In the case of episodes, once again, this is going to be rm get all episodes. Good thing we named things consistently so it's not a gigantic mess. And then this one is going to be get all locations response.self. So that should definitely be compiling. So what I think I can go ahead and do here is I can actually create a private function, which is, let's call this make search API call. And this thing can take in t, which will be codable. And instead of having to call that method redundantly, I think it'll be cleaner if we say, let's see, type, let's just call this underscore type will be t.type. And what I should be able to do is take this whole thing and I will toss this into here. And instead of passing this in one by one, I can say type here. And let's see why that is complaining. So here we're saying request. We would need to actually pass this in. It makes sense. So request here is going to be an rm request. All right, so let's see what's going on there. So now what it's complaining about is that model.result value of t has no member results. So this should be focusing on not the model or the result. So something here is off. Let me see what I screwed up here. Let's get rid of this whole thing. And let's compile. All right, so here we're saying request expecting type, which is t.type, and then request is our request. And our model here is going to be something that's decodable and encodable. Okay, that makes sense. But more specifically, the problem here is the reason that we don't know if we have results is because this t is generic to just codable, which is not necessarily what we're passing in. So we will probably need to do a cast on this. In other words, if I say something along the lines of if let's just call it a is model as rm get all character response, in this case, I'll be able to print this out. And this will still make it a little verbose because we have to do this casting business here. But I don't think that's a large problem. And the reason I say that is because we would either need to create a protocol which would have an associated type, which is going to get even more complicated. So let's keep it simple and let's make this whole thing work. So here, make search API call, what I'll do is once more, I will switch on our config.type.endpoint. And inside of here, we need to have a few cases. We'll have characters, we'll have episodes, and then we'll have locations. And what I'll be able to do is just say this guy, and this is going to take in a type, which will be rm get all characters, response self, request is request. Alrighty. Looking good. Seems a little more readable as well. Let's fix up these. So this is rm get all episodes response. This is rm get all locations response. And we come down here and let's say we get a model. What I'll do is let me abstract this to another function and I will call this self.process search results. And I realize that I'm kind of decomposing this a lot, and I'm doing that on purpose because with all the casting that we're going to be doing momentarily, I don't want it to get super messy, which I feel like it kind of already is. So cool, we'll pass in the model here, and this model is going to be something that is codable, and we're going to try to handle this here. So we're going to say if let character results, we're going to say model as rm character or rm get all character response. We can do something there. Otherwise, we're going to try to cast to episodes. Otherwise, we're going to try to cast to location. Otherwise, we're going to fall back with an error, which basically is going to mean no results view. Let's change this to be episodes. Let's change this to be locations, and let's change the types here. So RM get all episodes, RM get all locations. All right, cool. So this should in fact work. So let's see if I build. We shouldn't have any errors. Let's see why this is yelling at me. So here it's saying we are passing in the model. I need to use the parameter. Makes sense. We have warnings here since we're not using this. So cool. So let me just print out our responses here. So we'll say results, and we'll just say here the character results dot results. And I should have results, if I'm not mistaken, on all of them. So I'll just need to change this type here. But one thing that I was kind of alluded to before, if we click into results, you'll see that each one of these has results on it. But the problem is if I create a protocol, in addition to codable to cast to, this type actually changes, right? In the case of all episodes, it's episodes. In the case of all characters, it's characters. That's why if we didn't want to do this casting if-else business, we'd have to use associated types. And maybe we'll do that in a later on video where we clean everything up. But that's kind of my logic here. And I don't like editing these parts out where I kind of think through these problems myself because I think they're actually valuable. And, you know, I think I get annoyed when people make false pretenses. Everyone just is a genius about writing code. So this is me fumbling live and in action. So cool. So now that we have this here, let me give this a build and run and make sure our prints are coming out properly. And if they are, where we'll wrap this video up is we'll create a view model generically. So in this case for location, we're gonna do Earth and we get our results out here. We're actually printing the result array itself, which is good. In characters case, we're gonna search for Rick here and we get a bunch of results for that as well. And the last thing here is episodes, and we're going to search here for pilot, which is kind of the first episode in usually every show. We're going to hit search, and we get a episode out for pilot. Beautiful. So now how do we represent this in a generic way for our results here? The way we can go about doing that is as follows. Let's see if I can use an associated type on this view model. So let's see. So we have this struct here where we have RM search result view model. And technically we don't really want this. I guess we can use it as a view model. So let's see. Let's try to do this in a fancy way. So we're going to create a protocol here. And we're going to call this RM search result representable. And for those of you unfamiliar with associated types, the very TLDR definition is it allows you to type alias your own type. So here we're going to say associated type, and our type here, we'll call this our result type. And in this case, what I am going to do is we are going to have a property on here, which will be get only, and I'll call this results. And this is going to be a get only, and it's going to be an array of our result type. If I build, I shouldn't have a problem. Okay, awesome. And then this RM results view model is going to conform to this such that it has results on here, which will be of type results type. And the other thing that this is complaining about is the fact that we need to specify the result type alias. So let's say I make this a string. What this will say is that result type is our string here. In other words, we still need to genericize this. So let's see if I can actually bring in T here and use T as the type. So hopefully this isn't too crazy for y'all. So in other words, when I instantiate this, it's going to say, pass in whatever collection of results you have in here, and that is what it's going to use as the backing for the generic. So let's actually do this, and so I can kind of showcase what on earth I'm trying to accomplish by this. So let me go back to the search view model, and in this case, what I'll do is we'll say here results VM is going to be RM search results view model. And you'll see it wants me to pass in results, and I can actually just pass this guy in directly. And now what this will create is this result view model with a associated type of characters, because results in this case, if you look at the autocomplete, is a collection of RM characters. Now I do realize that we actually want this whole model because it does hold the information to paginate more results, but let's just make it simple and start with this. So let's create that there. Same thing here, same thing here. And let's see what this is yelling at me because I changed the types here. So let me just fix up those names. And once we've created this, what we want to do, and let me do this in a better way. So let's actually have this be a top level thing. Alrighty, so up here we'll say we have, we have a results VM, which is going to be an optional version of this. And actually we can't actually do that because it wants a generic. And let's see why. Let's actually make this a little better. We'll say the T has to be codable. Whatever type of thing we pass in is codable. And we still can't actually do that because it needs to specify what type of generic do you want here. Like, do we want this to be a thing with a string, or what do we want it to be? So if we do that, you'll see we have errors down here because in fact, this is not a string. So let's actually not do that. I take that back. Let me actually just make these constants again. And in all three of these cases, what we'll do now is we're gonna notify via the handlers. We're gonna say search results handler, which is an optional, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. We're gonna want to invoke this. And let's see why this is yelling at me, because it's an optional. And we want to actually pass this this results view model back. So cool, we'll pass this back. We'll pass this back. We'll do the same thing in all three cases, essentially. Now this is yelling at me because the signature of this needs to change. Instead of taking no arguments, it's going to take RM search results view model. And let's see why this is yelling at me. Because this thing needs to take something that is encodable and decodable. So we'll do T here. And it looks like it can't actually do that. Okay, so kind of shot myself in the foot here. So this video is kind of going definitely super off track. So let's see what I can actually do to clean this up and make my life simpler. So we're going to jump back into this, and instead of maybe using something with an associated type, let's actually get rid of this and let me make my life way simpler. So RM result, search results view model, instead of making this a struct, I take this whole thing back. I'm gonna make this an enum. We'll get rid of this protocol and the generic here because I feel like it's a little overkill at this point. And we're gonna have a few cases on here. We'll have characters, we'll have episodes, we'll have locations, and what we'll do is we probably want to map each of the models into something that is a view model for a particular cell. So I think we have one of those for each of these types. So for example, for locations, we should have an RM location view model for the cell. And this thing gets created with a single location. So that's location. That makes sense. For our characters, we should have one for that too. So we have a character collection view cell view model. This should be created with looks like a character name, a character status, and a character image, okay? And then we should have one for episodes as well. So let's see where the heck I threw episodes. Probably put it into episode details. So here we have episode collection view cell view model, and this gets created with just a title and a value. So instead of over-engineering things now, maybe we'll come back to using that associated type because I definitely think we can clean things up a lot more. So in this, we're going to have this be search results view model since it's no longer a generic. And down here, what we'll do is we'll be able to say this is our results VM, whoops, not VC, VM, and this is going to be an optional type like this, so we don't need to create a constant every single time. And we can actually delete these redundant calls here. And what I'll say down here is we will say if let results is results VM, then we can call the handler. Otherwise, fallback error in this case, and I'm going to move this guy into here and put results there. So we basically just got rid of the entirety of the associated type business. So let's go and just fix this. So we don't want to actually instantiate this now. What we want to do is simply create this enum. So here we're going to say this is characters. In this case, we are going to say we have episodes. Episodes, I want to say that exists. And the reason it's an issue is because we got to drop the let for the constant so it can infer the type. Same thing here. And in this case, this is location. All right, so we are not able to compile. Let's see what the problem is here. The problem here is we are setting a block with the incorrect type. So this should be RM search result view model. And we're gonna have one more error where we actually subscribe to that handler. Here we're gonna get the search results. So we'll say result in. And I'm just gonna print out the results since we are able to compile now. Now, one thing I did mention is that for our search results view model, it would be wise of us to actually hold on to a view model for each of these. So we're gonna have here a collection of RM character view model. Let's see what I want. There should be a collection view model if I'm not mistaken. So we have a collection view cell view model. In the case of episodes, we're gonna have an RM episode cell view model, something along those lines. So we have an episode info, then we have a RM character episode collection view cell. Sounds more correct. And then finally, we're gonna have another one for location. So this is RM location view model. So let me see here. So this one is a table view, which is why we have a table view cell view model. Let's create these and I'll wrap up the video there since we it's kind of got long with all the associated type business. So let's come back here. And if we try to compile, it should yell at me because here we're not actually specifying the associated type, which we need to do. So in this case, we are going to create the view models by mapping over the results. So here we'll say results, not results VM. We want the actual model. And from this model, we are going to get the results and compact map them to the appropriate thing. And that appropriate thing in the case of characters is going to be RM character cell view model. And this should be for the collection view cell. And what I want is the constructor here. So we're going to open this guy up. We want to pass in a character name, character status, and character image URL. So let's do that here. So this is going to be $0.name. This will be $0. Whoops, let's do that again. $0.status. And then we should have $0.image or something along the lines of that. So this is a string. We want this to be a URL. And if we compile, the error up here should go away. We just need to do the exact same thing for all the ones down here. So what I'll do is maybe I'll copy and paste if I am able to. Let's just see if I can get away with that. Take that, put that there, and we'll map over this. We'll map over that. Alrighty, it looks like we have an issue here. Let me see what it is. Well, first of all, we want to return the appropriate type, so let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. We should still have errors because in this case, we want to return is a episode, or it's an RM episode cell view model, something along those lines. I think it's called an RM character episode cell collection view cell view model. All right, this guy here. This just takes in a episode data URL apparently. So here we'll have $0.URL, which is what I think we need. We want it to be a URL type, so we'll just wrap that in there. And then here we're going to return the last one, which is an RM location table view cell view model. And once again, constructor location will just be $0. All right, so that was a lot of talking and a lot of fumbling around in this like half an hour video, but we did accomplish something pretty cool, which is the fact that we have this set up in a way where we can use it now. Let me just fix this curly because it's bugging me. And we just build and run to make sure that we do in fact get our results printed out, which is in our search view. Well, we get our view models printed out, I should say. So let me search for Morty. I'll hit search here and we do get our results printed out, and they're actually in the view models ready to be shown in our results section. Let's do that on the other cells as well. So let me jump on over here to location and search for Earth. All right, so we get a bunch of results down there. And once again, they're in the proper format here for our locations. In this case, we actually have our location within the view model here. Let me clear that and let me go to episodes and verify this. Search. And we get our single episode view model here. The next thing that we'll want to do is, well, there's two things we want to do now, even though that's how I started this video. One thing is show either a table view or collection view for the results. But then also what we want is, if you guys recall, the pagination properties reside on this info thing. And this info thing has the actual account we have, pages, next URL, and previous URL. But if you examine how we set up our search results view model enum here, it's just an enum, right? Like we don't actually have that information on here. So what we'll probably want to do is we'll probably rename this to something like RM search results view model or data view model or something, and then we'll have like some other view model which will wrap the pagination stuff. But before the pagination stuff, I'm just going to make sure we can get the results printing out. So that's all I've got for this video. One thing I recall I actually didn't do, which I really should, is I should actually stage and commit and push all my changes. So I'm going to say add everything. We're going to commit this and say extend search functionality, and I'm just going to push it. So bear with me here. Alrighty. All right, so push. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Appreciate if y'all followed along and me kind of screwing up associated types there. Hopefully that's a good example of how to work through design and make decisions and whatnot. So appreciate you guys watching. Drop a like before you click away. Subscribe if you're into iOS. And yeah, say hello in the comments for the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.